Hey everybody, it's Dave Becker with BeckerArt, and we're here for another Thursday night paint along. Tonight we're going to be doing some pine cones, basically. And the reason I want to do these pine cones, again, it's getting close to the holidays, and so we're doing some Christmas cards or holiday cards. And this was kind of like one of them, so that it's not that much of a different background, being lost edges and stuff, because I'm really into lost edges, but it's good enough. But I definitely want to show you what I did this afternoon, because we're gonna do it a little bit different, and from what the picture is, and we had a little bit of a trouble. I actually saw this. I knew this was gonna be a problem right before I even started this today in the classroom. But I'll show you what I'm talking about in a little bit. And tonight's beer. Let me see what tonight's beer is. Another Wisconsin beer. Still have a couple from Bruce when we were up there in Wisconsin. This one is called Plaid Panther. And Hop House Brewing Company, somewhere up in Wisconsin, and it's a malty Scotch ale. So we're gonna test this out. Give it a 1 to 11. Ooh, looks like a dark. That's cool. And not so bad a pour. I'll let it settle down a little bit before I drink, so I don't get a mustache. And so we'll talk about that one in a second. And today we have, let's see who's all here. We have Pamela, Evelyn, Barbara, Jean. I look at anybody. Oh, from Sheboygan, Wheaton, Green Bay. Hey, Barbara, Jean, Sue, Kathy. You guys have been doing some really nice stuff, guys. Claudia, Marianne, James. Hello, James, Maria. We got Ann, and Tom, and Monica. All right, thanks. Washington, from Green Bay, Washington, to Bronx. Oh, from the Bronx. All right. And so, actually today, it's like 70 degrees here today. Unbelievable. It's beautiful. It was beautiful today after a gorgeous day. And this morning I watched the demonstration, which I'll be posting. I'm the president of the Lakes Region Watercolor Guild here in Illinois, in Wisconsin. No, in Illinois. We're close to Wisconsin, but we had a Paul I forgot what his last name was, but he did a demonstration for us at our club today, and really nice stuff. He did a mixture of watercolor and gouache, and so that's something I got actually coming up. Is I'm gonna be doing my next big new class will be up in Dillman's next year, where I'll be doing gouache and watercolor. So we're going to put that instead of the acrylic class. We're going to do gouache and actually some acrylic gouache in that too. But anyways, so let's get on to today's assignment. And but first, let's go to my website to tell anybody who's new here that this is where you go to get information from me and anything about me. It's all there. I'm trying to redesign it little by little. We're getting to redesign it a little bit. Supplies tonight are my watercolors, whole band watercolors. We are using masking fluid today. I put some masking fluid down I'll show you why. And our paper is Stonehenge Aqua, and our brushes are also BeckerArt brushes. And thanks for those guys that are buying them up. I had a few sales this week, and so thanks a lot for that, guys. The value study. Let's look at the value study. So here's the value study, and let me just show you. This is the original. Where's my arrow? Here's my arrow. So this is the original photo that I sent you guys, or that you're going to pull off. And so the problems we had this afternoon was that we had 2 pine cones, and I knew right away that was going to be a no-no. I don't know why I thought that was being okay. 2 of anything is not a good thing in design. Yes, this is a 3rd, and this was maybe even a 4th, but those are just, lost edges, and you really can't see them. But in your main center of interest, you can't have 2 of something. Maybe if one's really large and one's really small, maybe that'll work okay, but not 2 of the same size things. It just is not a good thing. So what did I do? I added a 3rd. And so now I put that in there. And also the background on this was way too dark, and there was no difference between the background and the foreground. And I thought for some reason it was going to work. I'm not sure why. But so I changed this when I got home. I changed this and I went into Photoshop, and I'm going to do the background to be light. And we're going to do a light background. Everything in the foreground is going to be dark and detailed. So that's the composition. I mean, these things you have to study and do right before you start painting. And something I didn't do. And so we kind of screwed up. Or actually, it's hard to do the pine cones But I think that's the only problem most people had in the class today was the pine cones. And that's the drawing. And I didn't do them with masking fluid, but this evening I will be doing masking fluid. And here's it turning into black and white. So here you see now that the background is my lights and my foreground is my darks. You need to have a value pattern. I'm not sure why. Sure, I didn't think I needed one this afternoon or for some reason. I'm not sure. There was a lot to do today, but thank you for recommending. Anne says, thank you for recommending John Carlson's book of landscape painting. It's wonderful once you get past his assumption that all painters are male. Yeah, it's an old book. It was like an old book that was like a Bible at the school where I went to American Academy of Art. And so let's go to our tabletop and let's get started here. So here's the one I did this afternoon, and it was on the front when we signed in here. But this is like the third wash on top of it. And you know, when you put snow on at the very end, it always helps everything out. And all these lights in here, all those lights are white paint. And so instead of doing with white paint, and this was added at the last minute because I didn't have it in there, and it was just falling apart. I mean, it was really falling apart. I didn't have that in there. I didn't have the white paint on there, and it was just not looking like it. That was a really nice center of interest. But now, I mean, it turned out okay. And this made snow, and I made those hard edges, so I made little snow sitting on top of the branches. And I also did the rubbing out and a stencil. I have a stencil that I'll be using later on. I just cut it out of plastic. I took a compass and I scarred it, you know, with this special compass. And so I made this template. You can have all kinds of things that are circles or just rub it in a circle. Anyways, so let's get started and let me show you what I did here. So I redrew it up and I redid the whole thing, and I'm only going to use a black and white reference this time because I don't want to be seduced by the colors of the painting I did or the photograph. I want the photograph to not persuade me to what the colors to use. One of the ladies in class gave me this. This is her printer doing a number on the, you know, a lot of printers, if they don't have a color, and probably her yellow is not working really well. So it was more of a red and blue and a lot of purple in this. And so I thought, ooh, I like that much better than the green, you know, me and greens. And so now the background also is a little bit lighter back here. So I really like that. And so we took a little bit of that. And so I'm going to take a little liberties in this and try and choose my colors and maybe put a little bit more of the red and the more purplish green. Does that make sense? Okay, well, let's try it. But here you can see, here's what the picture looked like with a lot of greens and reds, which is a great combination, and definitely use them if you need to. I'm going to try to make this one a little bit different, a little bit more purples and reds and grays and stuff. I kind of like that, even though there was, the printer wasn't printing a color out, but hey, you know, that sometimes happens. And so we'll go with that. All right, and so let me taste the beer and cheers to you guys. Oh, that's bitter. Oh my God, very bitter, but good. It has a good, nice taste. It's just a little, very hoppy, very lot of hops in there. Not bad though. So cheers, everybody. I'm gonna give that a 9 because it's strong. It's a very strong beer. Not my favorite kinds, and you guys know that I'm not a very happy kind of guy. Happy, not happy. All right, and so what we got? Let's see, we got some questions here. You got somebody from Hollywood, Florida. Another person from Wisconsin, Paula from Onalaska, Wisconsin. Gigi, Sonia, Charlie. Yeah, we're gonna spatter to make some snowflakes coming down. And I also want to talk to you about, I think James last week was with the sticker. I finally figured out all about the stickers and if you're going to donate a sticker. Let me just tell you, I'd rather you buy some brushes or something, or for the $5 or $7, because basically Google gets 30% of the price of the sticker. So whatever you give, Google's going to get about 30% of that. And so I'd rather, instead of making Google rich, get yourself something. Get a new brush for me, and that would be fine. And even just you being here is really thank you enough. I love that you guys are all here. And but thank you also, James, again for always the last 2 weeks he's bought a sticker, and I just looked it up to see how that works and everything. So, but they take 30% of that, just to let you know. All right, so here we go. We're gonna do our lights first, like we always do. We do our lights first, and we are going to work in the purples But I'm working my lavenders only because I want to. Because the last time I did it, and I'm not wetting everything all at once. I'm just gonna. I should. Yeah, that's wet everything because I want to do lost edges. And it's all about lost edges. And how do you get lost edges? Soft edges and lost edges, same thing. Oh, we masked the. Yeah, thanks for the question, Maria. I masked out the pine cones, the light part of the pine cones, the white part, because the rest of it's going to be all dark. So I'm going to do the dark pine cones dark, and then the lights that are the you can look over here. See that how the pine cones have a light triangle in them. So that's what I masked it out. Hey Maria, if you gave $10 to the sticker thing there, then I would get 70% of that. So what is that, $7.50 or $7? 30%, yeah, 30. So it would be $7 if you gave a donation into the sticker thing that's on the bottom there that James was doing. And what colors are you going to be using? Let me just first put on the water. To buy my brushes, you just go to my website, and they're all on there. You can buy them separately or individually or in 3 different groups, but it's all on my website. Everything's on my website. So now I wet it all. Why do I wet it all? We've studied this time and time again, is that I want soft edges. And so I'm going to start out with lavender, which has some white in it, but I'm going to put some lavender in there. And I'm doing a light background, and I want it to look, those circles that you see here, the circles in the thing, that's going to be stencil. I'm going to rub it out afterwards. So I don't have to worry about that right now. I'm just going to put in the background colors that I feel are going to be fun. I want some fun colors in this background. Light though, I want them light. And since purple is one of my favorite colors, you use your favorite color. Use your favorite colors that you like. It's not because what the background actually is. I don't care. I know it's a lost edges. I want it to be just whatever, and I want it to be a beautiful wash of color is what I'm looking for. And there's a lot of red and pinks in this photo that I saw that see that, and I want to get a little bit of that in there, and then make the pine cones a little bit more reddish and the brownish side, and so we do that a little bit, and so a little bit of red in here. And make it a beautiful wash. I would love beautiful washes. Just make them fun and just let them float. Let them float. And now again, this has to be light. Always remember, it's got to be light. And some parts I'm going to keep white because the white on the pine cones will also be white when I take the masking fluid off. See how the holbein masking fluid, which is this stuff right here, it stays and it repels the watercolor so you can actually see it. See how it just comes up there? It's a really great masking fluid if you want to use a nice one. And you don't have to put much on. Most people put way too much on. You don't need that much on there. So I'm going to put a little bit, and I'm going to make it a little bit darker here. I'm just trying to follow. If you look in this right here, I'm looking at the value study. I'm looking at that. I'm thinking, what do I make dark and what do I make a little bit lighter? What do I make more colorful? The colorful ones can be a little bit like closer to the center of interest because that's what I want my center of interest to be. The pine cones, basically. And I am going to do some darks at the same time I do the lights because I want soft edges. I want to lose some of those edges. Lost edges. It's such a thing. I was talking to the class today about that and how, the thing that right now is a big thing is the hyperrealism. I mean, a lot of hyperrealism get a lot of awards, and they're super tight and they're super beautiful. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in them. And so it's hard as a artist who doesn't do that kind of thing to compete with that because it's so tight and so, perfect. A lot of them really look really clean and everything. And for somebody who slops around with paints like myself, Mary White's, when I showed Mary White's in my video this week, my tip video for my newsletter, I just love her work because she does a little bit of both. She does hyperrealism and looses in the same painting. And to me, that is just amazing. I just find that to be just so super great. I would love to take her workshop one day just to see how she thinks and stuff and what she thinks about when she's painting. And, when I'm painting, I'm thinking about how to teach you guys. And it's fun. You know, if you ever want to learn a lot, teach. You know, it's a really good thing to learn how to do things when you're teaching, because you don't want, for one, don't want to sound like a fool. You want to know what you're doing. And this is kind of like what I did with the pumpkins. You remember the pumpkins we did them? We tried them a little bit more pinkish and got some color into them, and the ones in class were just regular. Well, this is kind of the same thing. And but you know, purple is a fun. Purple matches with greens, and I'm even gonna put a little green in there too. I can put a little green into the bluish green, and I'm gonna put some of these. This brush is actually good for pine needles. You take it, see how straight it is, and it's so sharp. You just poke it straight down like this, and you get a pine needle. See that? Look at that. Instant pine needles. You know, and it's just a perfect 1 1/4 inch pine needles. You know, just tapping them straight down. And I'm making them soft edge, so I don't want them hard edge. Those are the ones for the front ones. The real dark ones over here are going to be the really hard edged ones. And so I'm just getting the soft ones. And now for the pine cone, I do want to get some soft edges in there, so I'm going to put like right in the middle of the pine cone, get some really nice dark colors. I'm a little purple and brown, which I kind of call cousins. They're cousin colors. They kind of match each other. And one of my students, Joyce, talked to me today about a book she got for kids called, oh God, what was it called again? I have to ask her again. Something like Crayons That Don't Want to Work or something. And it's about these crayons. It's a children's book, and it's the crayons that don't want to work because they're always using the color red for like a fire engine. And you don't have to make things the colors that they actually are. You know, you can always make things other colors besides that, and that's very creative when you do that. And so I'm going to definitely get this book as soon as I was going to get it actually already. I wanted to see what it was because it sounded like an awesome book, and she had ordered it. So here I'm making this kind of like colorful but dark. And I'm going to put a little purple in there, put a little red, put a little orange in there, and these are the pine cones being really dark, and they have soft edges in them too. So I get the soft edges now, and I'll get the hard edges later. And controlling that soft edge is what I've been teaching you for how many weeks now, is working wet in the wet and just making sure that you have a lot of pigment in the water so that it doesn't bleed super far away. And look at how it repels the masking fluid repels my watercolor, and that's so awesome that I can see where the lights are going to be. And so a lot of other masking fluids I've used, always you just cover them and they just stay on top of it. And so this one, this is a really good idea that they had that make it kind of repel and not be able to take on the watercolor. And then I'll take a little bit of purple in here, make it nice and dark. And the darks go right underneath the bottom parts of the. So I'm going to take my little small brush and just get a little bit of really dark. So I'm going to take a little bit of this permanent violet. This is permanent violet. This is light red, kind of like a terracotta. And it's going in there. Yes, Paula H. Yes, buying one of my paintings definitely is a great way of thanking me for these. You know, and actually they're going to go up in January, so get them now while the holidays are here because I've got to go up to the regular price. I'm getting flack from all my other friend artists. They're saying, "Why are you selling them so cheap?" In come January, they're going back up to the normal price, before COVID prices. My paintings. These are daily paintings like this one. This one will be probably up there one of these days. You know, so they always go up there. They're all my demonstrations. They're not my originals. My originals are way more expensive than what those are. But it's neat to have somebody want your paintings. You know, isn't it? That's what we're all artists are about. Is, you know, when somebody loving your painting and spending their hard-earned money on one of your paintings. So it's pretty awesome. So thanks to all of you that have bought one of my paintings recently, and even now for, boy, the last 3 years I've been putting them up there. So I have over 800 paintings up there right now. It's all from the ones I have done like this. All right, so there's my darks. I started out with a few darks in here, and here's another pine cone here. Let's put that in there real quick too. And this is all wet, so we're still getting wet in the wet. Yeah, masking, I would definitely, Maria asked about masking and stuff. Yeah, definitely, you want to mask it. I tried it without the mask and I did it with white paint. And then the white paint, it looks okay, but it doesn't have that brightness to it. It doesn't have that kick of the white paper. White paper will always trump all the other masking fluid. I mean, will trump the white paint that you're putting on there later on. It's so much nicer when you're doing it after, putting it on right now. So I think I'm going to keep it that light and keep it that colorful, and it's almost kind of pastel-like, which is fine with me. I'm going to be cool with that. And if I need to make things darker, I can always make things darker. That's the nice thing. I do love the softness to it, and once you lose the sheen, which I've lost the sheen now, I cannot go back into it unless I want those, if I want some little spattering. And maybe let's try that. Let me show you. If you take and you spatter a little bit, you get little snowflakes. And so instead of using salt, I'm going to use like little, just spattering it at this exact time, because see, I get these little dots in there now. And so it'll make it look a little bit like it's snowing. And so that's perfect timing. It's when it's damp. And so I'm just spattering a little bit of water on it, and it'll give me the look of like snowflakes. And I want it to be this, like there's snow falling, and I'm going to actually spatter it anyways on there. And so now we're going to go into our darks. And it's dry enough to where I can do that. Let me just put a few more darks into this one. I forgot this is still a little bit light here. This is going to be a pine cone over here. Hey Carol, hey Linda, hey Jenny, Barbie, hey everybody. Let me see if I miss any questions, you guys. Boy, you guys have been talking a lot here. Try your brush. All right, I think again, if I pass up your question and I didn't answer it by the end, please ask it again, because I can only look. I can't go back up and keep on looking. All right, so now we're going to go to our dark areas. Our dark areas have to be really, really dark. I want them to really be punched out, almost black in a way. So I'm going to go in there with a really dark green. I'm mixing my Prussian blue with my Quinacridone gold, because I don't really have a green, but I do have a dark blue and a dark gold, which is Quinacridone gold. And I also add a little bit of warmth to that, or like a red, so that it dulls down the green a little bit. And it kind of matches. You can also put purple in there and just tone it down the green a little bit. And I'm going to go in here, and I don't want to have everything to be just a line of the needles. I do want some of it to be like soft edged and kind of like floating too, so that not everything that's dark is going to be hard edged. I don't want that either. I mean, it's never just one way. You want to have a little bit of that soft edges, the lost edges. And again, that's what this is all about today, is lost edges, letting it be soft. And here I'm going to go in here, and just some parts are, just the thing, but then some parts I'm going to like let the water bleed itself together. So that's a ugly, dirty green. Basically, I went with a dark Prussian blue, Quinacridone gold, some red, some purple. Just made it a little dark. And now these on the bottom here could be a little bit more, a little bit. I'm going to use my rigger brush for those, because those are kind of thin. Ooh, almost in my beer. And so I'm going to go through here. And if you want, just follow the lines that you drew. If you drew a line, just follow them. And I do want to have overcrossing, because some are in front, some are behind. Some of these needles. And you notice how I try to put them in and then leave it alone. I don't try to go over and over. And I don't do this where you're like, let me find a place I can go over. Like over here, don't go like this and just kind of really quickly just throw them on there. Give them some feeling, don't wisp away at them like nonsensely. Crazily. Just get in there and do each individual one, but then when you want it to be like a grouping of them, and you want more water in there, then just put down water. Put down water in there, and then float some pigment in there. And then you can also go on top of that, make it darker. And here we go, darker. And also switch off your colors a little bit. You don't want the whole thing to be totally the same color through here. There could be some warmth from the red that's reflecting into this in here. So I'm going to put a little brown into this area, because it's close to a brown thing. And some of the needles do get brown and they fall off. And so, that happens too. So don't be afraid of putting other colors in there besides just green, green, green. Here I'm putting more water. I'm just going to take the side of my brush, water it down, because I don't want too much detail in that area. I do want it close to the center of interest down here. And here I can do individual. Oh, see, it's all still wet there, so I'm going to be getting a lot of soft leaves or soft needles. So I got to stay away from that for a second and go on here to other parts. That was dry. That part was dry by then, so I didn't have to worry about that. But here we're going to have to wait a little bit. So I do want get some soft edges, but some hard edges too. Especially my center of interest, I want hard edges. Now I didn't get as many of the pine needles in here on my first wash. What I can do is I can keep them really low key in value and then put them in there hard edge, but they'll look soft because I'll put them really low key. And I'll show you that as soon as it dries. And so let's go over down to here. And that's a light area. And then over here we have really nice dark again. Nice dark. So Prussian blue, quinacridone gold, a little bit of red. It could be alizarin red. It could be light red like Scarlet Lake red. It could be any red you want. So I'm going to go in here and just get the individual needles on the edges here. And that's dry, so if you go quickly across a dry surface that's like cold press, you're going to get texture. And that's one way of getting texture is by going quickly across a sheet of paper that has hardly any water on it and a lot of pigment in your brush. And so go down here. Get my bigger flat brush because I do like my fat brush here. Gonna add some water to that, maybe some red. Let's see, yeah, I should get more of the pink too. Get some more pink in here. But I had pink in here, and that's opera that I'm using right here. That's opera. And if you mix the opera with other colors, I don't like using it by itself. It's just a little bit too bright for that. But mixing it with another color makes it look really cool. There's some darks in here. I'm making this dark too because I want to put some opaque colors over here later on. All right, ask questions, guys. I love questions, you know me. And so I'm going to go over here, get some of the edges. Now with this brush too, not like the long one I was talking about with this one. This one you can get the needles. With this one you can kind of flick it like this and get long needles. Use it from the side. And it's a flat, but I'm using the front edge like this. I'm just kind of flicking it. Anytime you get a new brush, try it out and test it. Test it and have fun with it to see what you can do with it. Because each brush has some things that you can't do with other brushes. You know, flat brushes are different from round brushes, and there's certain things you can do with a flat brush you can't do with a round brush, and same vice versa. So let's see if this is. Let's make this a little bit darker up here. A negative paint around the pine cone, and so give it the shape of a pine cone. And if you don't know what the shape of a pine cone is, check it out on the internet. I mean, we got Google images, and just type in pine cone. Boy, you'll get thousands. You literally get thousands of them. And so just go in there and check them out. And so now I'm going to go through here. So I'm getting the shape of a pine cone up there around some dark areas. And you notice how I try not to make everything just lines. I try to put some parts where they're floating. And I can even scratch into that too. There's at a certain point I can scratch it. I can use the back of a credit card or the side of a credit card. Some brushes have chisels on them. You can use your fingernails. Whatever you feel like you need to do. Maybe have some more of this bitter beer. Cheers, everybody. It's not bitter, it's just hoppy. It's very hoppy. Not my favorite, but I'm thirsty. And so what we got here? Here we got light. And actually, I've got the dark coming right up to there. So I got to go darker here. Let's go with a different color, though. Let's go with the color that's from the background. And make it like more of a red. And I'll go around this part of the pine cone. And then make that the needles also. It's not grass. It's not grass. They're very sharp needles. And needles, if you look, they're pretty much the same length all the way out. They don't get fatter to thinner. They have a point on them, but they're pretty much the same. And so if the straighter you can make them, the more it'll look like pine needles and not grass. It isn't grass. That's like a rigger brush is really good because it makes one line, and you don't have to worry about it getting too thick or thin. It's all the same line. Some of them are a little bit, wobblier, like they wiggle. You have some of those, but they're not like branches. Branches go from thick to thin. Needles are just solid little needles, basically. So again, here there's a little bit too much needles, and so I like to keep them in some needle parts where you see the needles, but then some parts where they all come together in a group. And then the edges usually come out. Make them a couple this way. So I'm stalling here, guys. Ask me some questions. I have to wait for this to dry before I can go in there. Take it with the back of your hand usually, so you don't put any oils on your painting. I'm going to go back in here now. And I know this looks very bland right now, but I've got a bunch of things to do to it still. I've got the imagery to do, and then I'm going to do the circles on top of that. So it may look really like, wow, what's he going to do? Keep it just really light like that? No, it'll be a lot different from that. You'll just see. And now I'm going to go in and get some of my harder dark edges, because I'm into my darks now, which I was a while ago already. Here we're going to put some more needles coming off of here. That's still wet. Yeah, we're going to just put needles in here. And this would make a great Christmas card. A nice holiday card. It doesn't have to be, you can put, some people were thinking these were like ornaments, the round circles, but they're not supposed to be ornaments. They're supposed to look like, there's a certain technique in photography where they make these circles, they blur out something and it makes a circle. And of course, I forgot what that name is, and they just mentioned it in class this afternoon, but I forgot again. But there's a certain kind of technique that photographers use to do those circles, like they're like circles, and it kind of blurs things out. Look at how far my needles went, and they got really bled out here. So I'm doing each individual needle here. Why? Because it's in my center of interest area. This is my center of interest, all three of these. Put a little branch coming there too. And I overlap things. I know these look very soft edge, but now that's where you can always put the dark hard edges in there later, like I'm going to do now. And that's when you take a look at the dark parts of the image. And so if I push this up a little bit, see how right here, do I have a pointer? No, I don't have a pointer. Well, you see on the very far upper left one, the edges around the sides are very dark, right? And so I'm looking for this outer shape of the pine cones. So that's what I'm going to do now, is get the outer shape of the pine cones to make them look really nice. And so I'm going to, here's the outer edge, right? And I will go some here, nice hard edge, and they get dark. And right underneath the white part is where the dark part is. Like it's underneath here. So I'm putting really darks right there to get the shape of the pine cone. That white is what's on top of the pine cone. It could be snow, it could be just the lighter part that you see that it's just physically lighter right there. And so I'm just putting a nice dark at the tip underneath the white, not on top of it, because it's the top is the actual part of that piece is the pine cone. And then right in the middle it gets really dark, like super dark in the middle, because that's like way in there, way inside the pine cone. And then these are little, I don't know, fingers that come out. We'll call them fingers. And I get the edges a little bit. I'll put a little green in there too. What the heck? They start out green anyways. Pine cones start out green, and then they dry and they just curl up, and then just putting a bunch of darks in here, getting the shape of it. It shows the shape then. It's the outer shape of the pine cone. And then the inner parts I'm going to get with a really dark purple here, maybe even a little black. I'm putting a little black in there, right down the center. Right down the center, because that's where the deepest part is, well, right in the middle. So same thing with this one. We'll do the same again and again. That's the hard part, is monotony, doing the same thing over and over again. And like it's like when you're doing bricks on a wall, you just have to do them all. Sometimes you have to do everything that you see on there. And it's the center of interest, and so can you imagine people who do hyperrealism where they have to get everything super, super tight? You know, it's pretty amazing when I think about it, how they paint some of those things. I don't think I have the patience to do that, but there are a lot of artists who do that. They're looking pretty cool. Okay, the outer edge again, go right underneath the white. Then a couple that are extra here that are just dark all the way out on the edge. And then I have to wait for all this to dry before I can take off the mask or the masking fluid. But see how the masking fluid, since it repels, you can already see what the picture is going to look like with the whites underneath there. And I will have to probably dull them down a little bit because otherwise it'll look way too hard-edged and too bright. Okay, here, right underneath the white. See, I'm just painting blue darks, really dark darks, right underneath the white. Or the masking fluid, I should say. And add a couple of extra pine needle ends that are not white, because there's some of them that aren't white or don't have a lighter surface. Like this, I'm putting a couple in extra. And this will hopefully be really quickly. I don't want to take too much time on this part, because I'm going to show you the other parts yet. How much time do we have? Oh, we got plenty of time. Oh my gosh. Any questions? What else works besides masking fluid or white paint? Good question, Pamela. That's a really good question. The soft tape that I showed you last week, if I have it right here, let me see if I have my light paint. I have this stuff called soft tape. And soft tape is a tape that Holbein makes that you can see through, and it repels the water really well. And what I do is I put it down, and then I cut out with an X-Acto knife. I cut out the shape of the thing, and I just press down a little bit, and it releases really easily too. It's not like it has really sticky part to it. So soft tape is a good thing. I wouldn't use like masking tape or some of the like other tapes, but you couldn't use masking tape because you can't see through masking tape. This is what you can see through it. You actually see the pencil line, and you can just cut out the shape of these round things. So you can do that. But that's the only other way I can think of. Besides masking and white paint. White paint is probably the easiest because you just put white paint. Or just start, use acrylic. Acrylic white instead of acrylic white or gouache white. Something that covers up really well so that it doesn't show through, because the transparent will show through a little bit. Let's see. Lucia, she wants to know about Bokeh. That was a word for the same word that photographers use for field of depth of field. So that's what the whole thing was about. When you look at photography, a lot of times depth of field when something's out of focus and something that's in focus. Well, depth of field is that depth, the part that the center of interest would be in focus, and everything else away from the edge, and it could be like a vignette. That would be what you would call bokeh. And cell phone cameras cannot do it, and the reason they can't is because their sensor is not big enough, and they can't do it. Some of them they have 2 lenses or 3 lenses. They can possibly do one picture that's out of focus and one that's in. And they combine it together with some kind of app, but it's basically depth of field, and depth of field is what I'm trying to teach everybody, which is lost edges, and so that some of it doesn't look so detailed. And so that it gets out of focus, and you've seen those pictures where things are out of focus and it's really beautiful. So let's go now into our light area, and our light area will have. I'm gonna make the needles light. I'm gonna take a little bit of violet because that's what this area is, violety, and so I'm just gonna do needles in that color. That will just stand out just slightly, so they'll still look soft edged, but they'll have texture, and it'll be like it's there but not really there. And that's soft edges, but I'd have to re-wet it to get soft edges, but I also can make it kind of look like soft edges by using a very light contrast to that color. So here I'm going to negative paint the needles. So I'm negative painting, and so the white is the needles, like you see right here. You see right there, I have needles that are white. Well, I'm just going to do that by painting around them. So that's negative painting. And so I have to make them pretty thin, and this part I'll just wash away into the background. And so it's kind of like that. It's not in the exact spot I wanted it, but that's fine. It's close enough. And so one by one I just do each needle. I am doing just like lines, but the dark lines are not the needles. That's reversed. So I'm gonna take in put a little pink in there, and bleed this out to the background. So then this will be dark, and the dark part will create the background. And I'm doing it on dry also, so that it looks like it's just. I can just bleed it into the background, and will not get a watermark either. So there we have some needles. And I can also put white there too later on, and then I'm going to put a little bit of pink just in that, make it so light. And see how I just kind of got the light now to be some kind of object, and some needles just happening here and there. Same thing right here. I'm just going to go in with some of this purple and the pink, and I'm just going to go in there and make more needles. Very light though. I just want the texture of that. I don't really want it to be contrasty. I don't want it to pop forward. I just want to have something in there to be more detailed. You cannot switch away from the value pattern. That's what I did this afternoon. I made everything the same values, and so then you get nothing. I mean, you just get a bunch of colors and things all over the place. This will have a definite composition because the darks are in the front and the lights are in the behind it. And this got almost too light, and so I'm going to go back in and do another dark on top of that. But before I do that, I'm going to maybe do some of the circles that I want to do. And I wish I remember what the name was for the circles that photographers use. Photographers use that for some. It's like a little technique they use. Here I'm making something a little bit darker, a little bit more purple. This is my purple right here. And I use permanent violet. If you want to know what my color I use permanent violet. Here I'm just going to take in. So I don't like to make them all just together or separate. I like to make some of them together so that you don't have everything pushing in as each individual needle. I like to separate them up a little bit and wait until I get the nice circles in there. You'll love it. It's going to look great. I love doing those circles. It's kind of fun. So here I'm going to get a little bit more. I'm going to go a little bit darker in this area. Like it's a shadow of maybe this. It could be a shadow of that area. That's a little dark, but that's okay because I want to make this part darker here anyways. This got a little bit too light. Make that a little bit darker. And see, that was wet, so. And you're just trying to do beautiful washes anyways. You're just trying to do beautiful, beautiful washes. Now let's make this part really, really dark. Let's go really super dark. I'm using black first, Prussian blue, Quinacridone gold. I'm making a super, super dark now. And what do I want that for? Is right in here, I want to make in front of this just another layer. So if I have another layer, then it shows, each layer you make gives you more dimension. So this is just slightly darker. And then I'm going to see that shows that this is in front of that one and that's in front of that. So I've got 3 layers here now. And then that could be like this. And I can negative paint and make this needles light. Like this color would be the color of the needles by going around each needle. And you don't really go around each needle. You just kind of assume that it looks kind of like needles. See right there, it looks like this is the light part now is a needle in front of that. So you go back and forth, juxtapositioning all the lights and darks. And this is more of a dry brush. There's not that much wetness in there. I don't want this to be a triangle though. Never put a triangle into the corner of your image. So let's just make that nice and dark. And then this up here, because it was all wet, now it's dry. We can do the same thing with that nice dark that we mixed over here. Do the same thing up here. Put another layer. It could be in front of that. Because we're always trying to make this white sheet of paper 3D. So I'm going to go in here, just put another whole branch in there. Make this really dark. See, by doing that, now I have another branch in front of that one. That one was supposed to be really dark, but this one's even darker. So I just added that on the whim. And it doesn't need to be in your picture. You just know that the foreground stuff is darker. That's all you need to know. Now let's make it even darker here. Just put some needles going this way. Maybe some darker needles going this way. Maybe a bit darker in this. Same thing with this needles. All right, any questions? Oh, Bokeh is the name? Oh, okay, thank you. So now we've got our light, or our darks. Let's put another one right here. I know you're all waiting for the masking fluid, I know. Or the circles, because that is fun. I must say, that's a super fun time. All right, let's do that. So, depending on what kind of paper you use, when you're doing stencils, and I'm using a round stencil. Hold on, let me right here. So this is a round stencil, and it's just plastic. Actually, this is a material I bought at Hobby Lobby. It was actually stencil material. You can just buy it. It's just a sheet of plastic. But you can just find a piece of plastic, or even I've used cardboard for stencils, but those you can maybe use once or twice. Where this you can use forever and ever. And you notice I cut different size shapes. Now don't use different size shapes of the round circle, the Bokeh. You want it to be the same circle around, because I tried it with different ones and it looks really weird. So try to do the same circle. And I'm going to use maybe the little bit bigger one, this size one right here. And I'm just going to take it and put it over things. And where you place them really doesn't matter too much. And just how much you take off. That's what the problem. On my other painting, I almost took too much stuff off. And I don't want to go back totally to white. I just want to make it look like it's blurred, that area. Like it's a little, like the camera just blurs it a little bit. And I'm going to get the outer edge. And so I have a little circle right there. You can barely see it, but that's okay. I don't want it to be so. And also, I forgot, you want to tap with a paper towel after you rub it a little bit. Just tap with a paper towel. Sometimes enough to take away once it gets wet. The thing is, you don't want this to be soaking. You just want your magic eraser to be damp, not wet even. Otherwise, it gets underneath here and it gets everything wet. And you also want to do this when it's dry. And so now I want to use the same circle, maybe over here, to the edge a little bit. And you can also take, like I said, you can take a wet paper towel and just blot it. And it all depends on what paper you're using. If you're using paper that soaks in a real lot, like Arches soaks in a real lot, then you're gonna have to scrub a little bit with the magic eraser. This paper, Stonehenge, is not so porous. It doesn't pull in so much into the paper, so you don't have to wipe very much at all, and it comes right off. Which I'm not sure is a good thing or bad thing, but yeah, it comes off really easily. So I like using paper towel and blotting. Here, I'll just use a little bit of the magic eraser. So I'm just rubbing it a little bit. Magic eraser, blotting it. A little bit of a circle. And see how they just make little kind of neat looking shapes. I'm going to overlap this one and make one of them less circly. I guess they'll go all the way around. Like you can go and yeah, it's just like it's crossing over each other, and the one area where it crosses over. This one I should have made all a little farther around. I didn't because I thought there was a branch in front of it, but let's make this one a little bit more. There we go. And so let's do another one. Betsy asked how I cut these circles. I had a compass that had a little, you can buy compasses that have like a little, what do you call it, knife at the end of them. Or you put a knife, like a little X-Acto knife, glue it to your or tape it to your compass, and then that's all I did. And then you just scar it, and then you just kind of wiggle it back and forth a couple times, and just go around a couple times with the X-Acto knife. And that, don't cut in really deep, really fast. Just go real slowly. Which is my circle? This one again? Yeah. And then just keep on circling it with the compass. And this is just one. This one was done with a paper towel. See that? Now see, my back was wet on that one, so my edges are a little darker because the water. So always try to dry them before you go again. So I'm drying them on my pants, which every artist does, right? So I'll put another one. Let's see, is that the same size? Always make them the same size. Like I said, I tried them the other size and it looked kind of odd. It was okay, but I just felt it seemed a little odd that they were different sizes. I'm not sure if that's a thing or not, but I felt it was like weird that they were different sizes. Paper towel, blot, blot, blot. I really think you should go all the way around. I think halfway doesn't work. It doesn't seem right. Put a little water on here. Go into my, because it'll still show my needles, but then I just make that area lighter. And you can also buy the stencils from stencilgrowproducts.com. I'm sure they have circles. I'm sure that's probably one of the easiest ones to get. But just make it. I mean, you don't have. It's not that hard to make a circle. And like I said, you can also make them in cardboard, you know, and cut it out. Or where else should I do it? Up here? I think up here. Yeah, up here a little bit. I'm just rubbing a damp paper towel now. I just rub a little paper towel over it, and it's making nice little circles. Let's see. What do you think of? So here's the one with the circles that are different sizes. And see how I think they look a little bit too much. Like there's a small one, there's a large one. I felt that they look a little bit too much like their ornaments then, where this looks like more about the lighting. It's like the light's doing that instead of being ornaments. That's what it's supposed to look like. It's supposed to look like lighting, like some kind of lighting, flickering of it. And so this one over here, that's in the black and white, that's done in Photoshop, and it's just taking a filter over it, and so that's a little bit different to do. This is actually watercolor. So now let me see if I can take off my masking fluid, and so we can show you what that to do after that too. I'm going to dry this with a paper towel, just make sure everything is super dry. Linda asked, why should we avoid triangles in the corners? That's a bad composition thing to do. Is either like edges, like trees on the edges. It's almost like a tangent, and then you look at that. If it's too much of a triangle, you'll look too much in that corner. So any kind of geometric shape in the corners or on the side is not a good thing in composition. So stay away from that. Do you use non-staining paint? No, it doesn't matter. Even if I'm using a staining paint, you're rubbing out a little bit of the paper so that it's fine. Do you use a cheap masking fluid alternative is tear mender. You can buy at a hardware store. Tear mender? Never heard of that. You have to watch out for masking fluid though, because like on this paper, like where it's damp right now, it's going to tear my paper. I know for a fact that if I don't let it totally dry, it's going to rip my paper a little bit. One thing to do is when you're taking off your masking fluid, what you can do is get a hair dryer and heat up it a little bit, because then it pulls it away from a little bit more easily. I thought I had one here. Oh, I have a heat gun, but that's a little bit. This heat gun is also a power stripper, and it gets too hot. I use this for when I wrap my paintings with the cellophane, but I think it's a little bit too hot for this. I made a big mess here, David. I need to work on my speed. Don't worry about your speed, Maria. Don't try to go as fast as I can, because most people can't catch up in that kind of speed. So let me just take the masking fluid off. We should be very close to done here, guys. And you can take a kneaded rubber eraser also to take off your masking fluid. What I like to do is I like to stretch it and clean it first, so I don't put anything muddy into the paper. Though if it is damp, you're going to get this stuff into the light area. Betsy likes the same circles better. Thanks, I think so. I tried to dry her once, masking fluid, and it was very, very hard to take off. Here, I'm just taking it off really slowly. The most important thing is making sure that your painting is dry, bone dry, which mine isn't, but it's still coming out pretty easily. And it also depends on the paper you're using. Soft paper that like this is a little bit softer. It kind of tends to kind of rip it up a little bit. And actually, the thing I was talking about with the hairdryer, it's mostly better with tape. Like to take the tape off when I use the tape trick. The soft tape, when I cut out shapes, I can peel it off a little bit easier when it's warm. Like it releases it, it makes it more gummy, and so it's not as hard on the surface. Well, that's coming off pretty easily. This is actually pretty good. I should be using a kneaded rubber not a kneaded rubber eraser, a rubber cement pickup. That's usually the best because it just picks it right up. But this is kind of like a rubber cement pickup. You see how it is turned nice and white? It looks like snow, but I'm going to tone that down a little bit because that's a little bit too light. I mean, that's not actually snow on there. That's just the color of the pine cone. A lot of times they're kind of beige on the tips and stuff when they wheel up like that. So it's not really snow, but you can make it look like snow too. That's something I still got to do. And I only got, let's see, 4 minutes left. I better hurry up here. Hold on. I got to always hurry up in the very end, right? There we go. And also you notice that when you do this, when you take the masking fluid off, sometimes it's way too sharp because it's like way too light. Because it's the lightest light and darkest dark because it's the white of the paper again. So you definitely a lot of times have to go, no, definitely have to tone them down sometimes. There up the paper a little bit. All right, let me see, take my round brush, go into a little bit of orangey, well actually, let's go into a little bit of grayish lavender, and tone some of them down a little bit. Just tone them down a little bit on the edges, or going on some that down here, the ones that are going into the. I'm not sure why this is one neat. It's not even a thing right there, but on the bottom they go in, so that as they go in like that, the top parts of them are a little bit darker. Almost done. Almost done. Tops of them, tops of them, tops. That's not lavender. Tops, 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 tops. Tops, tops, tops. And then almost there, almost there. And put some of them totally into the like a more beige kind of look, because a lot of them are beige. They're not white usually. They're just a little bit of beige. All right, and then the final thing I said I was going to do was spatter to give it snow. I want to make it snow in here. So all you do with that is take a brush. I usually like my round brush. I fill it up with white paint. Nice and white. Get rid of this other stuff. I'm going to take my paper towel, go over it, get that nice and white in there again, rinse off my brush, make it really wet, but pick up a lot of paint, and then tap on another brush. Just tap straight down, just click. So now it's snowing. It's snowing all over my face. Now this dark dots you're seeing are on this brush, and so don't tap with a brush that has other colors in it. Never did that before. So hey, you can do double tapping. I give 2 colors, put on both the thing, and then just tap both brushes. Wow, you learn something new every day. So if I put white on this one and on that one, watch this. That's what I just learned. Hey guys, we've done a new trick. So I put white on both of these, and tap one on top of the other, then you're going to get double tapping. Look at that, watch this. So, it works. How about that? You learn something new every time. So now we have a nice beautiful snowstorm coming through here. And it looks very holiday-like. Alright, and try a new trick. Load both of them up and tap them both against each other. And you get beautiful snowflakes. We take the tape off and we'll be done. 7:30. And so thanks again, everybody, for stopping by tonight. And when you do your paintings, please put them on BeckerArt group at Facebook, and then we'll talk about them and look at them and show them off. Definitely show them off. And then make cards out of them and ship them to all your friends. All right? So until next week, and if you ever have ideas and you want something painted, you want to have an idea of something that you'd like to see painted or learn about, just let me know. And we'll see if we can put them into a mix of things. All right? So until next week. Well, actually, happy Veterans Day tomorrow. Tomorrow's my birthday, and so it's always on Veterans Day. So all you veterans have a great day. All right? Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.